Namaste and good evening to all the participants who have registered for this session. I thank all of you for this opportunity and to share some of the information on this much needed topic, that is eye care during the pandemic. And I will be discussing this talk under some headings. First is the specific eye problems which is related to this difficult period and their causes, and some of the ways and means of overcoming digital fatigue, and a few points on also eye care, especially in these difficult times when you have limited access to medical facilities. Now, the last decade has seen a very steady and gradual increase in digital dependence for all of us, that is adults and kids alike. And a study almost shows that by 3 years, 68% of children use computers and 58% of them undertake some level of online activities. So this figure is only going to increase in the coming years. And this difficult period of pandemic has suddenly thrown this completely out of gears. And now we find ourselves most of the time in front of some digital device or the other from morning till we go to bed.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
I'm noticing a couple of people saying that they're unable to hear. I just want to do a mic check kind of a thing. If you don't, I apologize for the interruption.
No problem.
Is it audible? Members, if you can chat. Yeah, I think most are able to hear. Yeah, would request those who are unable to hear to please check the devices at your friend. Ma'am, sorry for the interruption. You may please continue.
Yes. So once you spend the entire day for professional reasons on your laptop and computer, you want a break and you want some entertainment, and finally you reach out for your mobile phone, your tablet or your Kindle. So this finally again increases your digital dependence. So now we see that the devices are here to stay. We cannot completely wish them away, and they're an integral part of our lives now. So our idea here is not to take screens away, but help manage screen time. And we all recognize the positive benefits of digital connection. Children who do these online activities have definitely, it enhances teamwork and creativity. It gives a wealth of knowledge and better performance, improves visual intelligence and even hand-eye coordination, and also takes away physical barriers. Their levels of expression are so much better. Social connections are better. So these are all the plus sides of this digital connection. And we also have some downsides. There are some effects on sleep, on behavior, on memory. Now let's restrict ourselves here to the effects on the eye. I'm sure all of you, we have gone through a lot of your queries, and I think almost 70% of them were related to some form to the children. And I'm sure all the parents are very concerned how the digital devices are affecting the tender eyes of their little ones. And you do have some concerns about how to prevent this prolonged exposure. Is it causing any damage? Are there any special foods that I need to give, or are there any eye exercises? And will my already existing child's power increase? And should my child use any special glasses? And this talk will cover both for adults and for children, and I hope to cover all your queries here. So why are we even having this discussion? It's because we all know that digital devices emit some form of light, and the important one of it is blue light. I think all of you must have already been aware, and you've read about it. You've heard about blue block filters and blue block glasses, etc. So let's see some facts and figures about what actually blue light is. Blue light is everywhere, and sun being the main source of blue light. And we also have it in some man-made devices like the fluorescent lamps, the LED lighting, and even the flat screen televisions. Blue light is basically a shorter wavelength. If you see a short wavelength light, that is 400 to 450 nanometer, and it is high energy, that is more energy per photon of light. So the risk to the eye or to the retina is when this blue light exposure is very intense, that is supra threshold, or it's acute. That's the reason we tell you not to look at the sun, not to gaze at the sun, or to avoid the exposure during solar eclipse and all that. And also low intensity prolonged exposure is also known to have some effects on the eye. Now let's come to some good news. Currently, there is no evidence that there's any permanent damage of eyes from the low levels of blue light that is emitted by the present day digital devices. So having said this good news, we should also be aware of what the long-term problems are. The maximum brightness that most of our digital devices emit is around 625 candelas, which is quite minuscule compared to what we normally get in outdoor light. Ambient illumination from the sun is almost 10 times more light. So obviously you need to take more care outside, protecting yourself from the harmful effects of the sun, especially between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. And cumulative exposures could be harmful. For instance, you're sitting with your digital device and you have very bright LED lights in the room. So every one of these emits some form of blue light. So the cumulative exposure from all the devices could be harmful. It's not just your digital device. And the role of blue blocking filters and glasses is very controversial. There are studies to and against this. But some people do benefit from these blue block filters, and it's known to almost block about 10 to 23% of the blue light. And one more information that you must remember is this light exposure also affects the circadian rhythm. A circadian rhythm is actually a cyclical 24-hour period of human biological activity which includes sleep. And melatonin is the hormone that is released in dim light. And as prolonged exposure to blue light actually reduces the melatonin secretion. And if you use a digital device right up to your bedtime, it could interfere with your sleep pattern. And this, done over a prolonged period of time, can lead to really long-term effects of insomnia or an inability to sleep well. So having given you some of the good news that it is not really having any permanent damage, we also have some problems. Now let's look at some of the short-term effects and the long-term effects of computer usage. The short-term effects, which we commonly call as computer vision syndrome or digital eye strain or visual fatigue. This is seen in almost 50% of people who are using these digital devices. And they are of all these symptoms that I have listed here. First set of problems that I have listed here is because of exposure of the eye. So that could cause dryness, irritation, watering of the eyes, frequent rubbing, especially if children might rub their eyes very frequently, and increased eye sensitivity. The second set of symptoms is because of prolonged near work, that you're constantly staring at your monitor at a particular distance near. This causes blurry vision, double vision, eye fatigue, headache. And you're most of the time having a less than ideal posture while you're using your digital device, and that can cause neck pain, generalized fatigue, tiredness, and of course, sleep. So these are all, everything comes under what we call as a computer vision syndrome. And the long-term effects of prolonged screen time, this could be behavioral changes in children, sometimes leading to attention deficit, sometimes reduced memory power. Probably the children are depending more on the memory of the device than their own. So, and progression of myopia, this is a very known fact, progression of myopia or short-sightedness. And of course, insomnia, disturbed sleep patterns, and obesity. Well, are there any risks? Are any particular individuals more prone to all these symptoms? Digital eye strain is seen in individuals using more than 2 devices at a time. That's almost 75% compared to those using 1 device. And certain individuals who have other coexisting medical issues that cause generalized dryness, that is dryness of the eyes, can have a higher tendency to have a computer vision syndrome. And individuals using a screen for 6 hours or more are more prone. And of course, contact lens wearers are definitely more prone than non-wearers. And we have seen that this digital eye strain now is not limited to just adults, because children are more and more using the screen for a longer time. Now they're having online classes, and they've had to adjust to this new normal of having long hours in front of the screen. So, and it has been shown that longer duration of this visual display terminal for these children does increase the risk of these symptoms. And it has been shown that if you cease the smartphone use for a child for a 4-week period, it can certainly improve their symptoms. And eye strain, because it impacts learning and school performance, it becomes very important for us to find ways and means of preventing them, which obviously is limiting the use to the minimum required, which is advised. That means you decrease the task time. So you kind of prioritize and decrease the time between professional or school time versus the entertainment or the social time. So that is under our control. And then there is an aspect of blinking and squinting. Blinking is a mechanism, as we all know, which aids maintenance of a normal ocular surface. Every time you blink, it instigates a cycle of secretion, dispersal, evaporation, and drainage of tears, keeps the eye moist and hydrated. And whenever you use using a digital device, the mean blink rate has been found to reduce from almost 18.4 to around 3.6 in one of the major studies that was conducted. So you see the profound drop in the blink rate when you're using a digital device. And also you might see even adults and children kind of trying to squint. This could be because they have an uncorrected refractive error and they're trying to squint to see a clear image, or if the font size is very small, or there is a low contrast, or even if the illumination is very bright. As soon as we wake up in the morning, before our eyes get used to it, you all tend to squint and try to reduce the aperture of the eye. So that is squinting. So you tend to do it for all these reasons, and that also, can reduce the blink rate. And we have seen that increased cognitive demand reduces blink rate. That means if children are doing a very involved math problem or something which requires a lot of attention, obviously their attention is very high and the blink rate is drastically reduced compared to just a casual watching a movie or something for entertainment. So the cognitive demand is one of the features. And it has been shown that compared to reading a book, the incomplete blinks are more when you're using a digital device. So incomplete blinks again cause dryness and exposure. And we have just discussed a demanding task. Suppose you're using something which is faster on a screen presentation, or you're tracking some figure, then it increases the risk. And when you're sitting in offices or even you have low humidity, with an air conditioner or airborne dust toner particles, this can promote the corneal drying. And also when you're using a desktop computer and the eye level is horizontal, then your palpable aperture is very wide and that can cause increased drying. So now we have listed out all the issues and what causes them. Now, what are the solutions to these problems? What can we do to get some relief? Now let's start this first one. You must all have read this. It's a very simple and very effective way, the 20-20-20 rule. That is, you have to give your eyes a break, because prolonged task time, like I told you, increases the risk of all these symptoms. So give your eyes a break. So you look every 20 minutes, you take a 20-second break and look at any object which is 20 feet away. Now, let's assume that we have come to 20 minutes. Now, all of you who have logged in, just do this with me. Now, you're all looking at your digital screen. Now, look away from your screen. Don't look at me again. Don't look at the screen. Look at some object which is 20 feet away in your home and take a 20-second break. Now, let's start. Let's start now. 5. Yes, 10. Yes, 15. Yes, 20. So that's normally how you should do. Take a 20-second break, look at any object which is far away. If you're sitting next to the window, you can just look far out into some greenery, a tree or something which is far away to relax your eyes. That's a very useful thing to do. And also increase your blink. When you're looking away and you're taking a break, consciously blink completely so that your tears are completely spread over your eye and the eyes are moist. So that's what you must do. You must and try to avoid sitting directly just in front of the AC blast or a fan which can promote drying of the eye. And if the drying is very severe and you are feeling very uncomfortable, you can certainly use some lubricant eye drops to help you feel more comfortable. And third, what you can do is to adjust illumination. We don't want either extremes of illumination. You shouldn't have a dark room and view your screen, or you shouldn't have a very bright, suppose you take this computer out into the bright sunlight, that's not good too. So it shouldn't be either ways. It shouldn't be dim, nor should it be very bright. Try to adjust so that the ambient light and the light on the screen is kind of similar, so that the eye does not have that higher contrast and it's not strained. And fourth, you can do is to reduce glare. Try to avoid glare from any window or any bright object or a lamp that's actually coming on the computer. Try to turn your computer screen so that you don't get the glare that you see here. And try to use a screen which has got a matte finish. And keep a distance. Now you're all used to social distancing in the past couple of months. Digital distancing is as important. So 1 arm's length away. Now you can see this 1 arm length. That's the ideal distance to use your digital device. And your arms are comfortably placed and the table is at the arm's length over here. And sometimes if you want, and your feet are completely placed firmly on the ground. Sometimes you may want to kind of use a small footstool. You can improvise and use, this is just a box with a kind of a stool surface. You can improvise and use that as a footstool, which can help you feel more comfortable. And these are all the wrong postures. You see this gentleman over here, there is a distance, the spine is not angled well and is sitting most uncomfortably and hunching over. Now the neck is not in good position, the spine is not in good position too. So this is not to be done. And this, you want to take a break, this is not the way to take a break, because it's really going to add to your complete strain and fatigue at the end of the day if you use the spine posture. And this too, this gentleman probably fallen asleep like this. So this is not good too. So if you want to take a break, take a complete break, go lie down and come back fresh, back to your workstation, and don't assume less than ideal positions like this. And some people prefer to have a working station. This is a very good idea because you don't want to keep sitting all the time. So this is a good way to stand and keep your feet apart like that and have a comfortable erect position with your feet a little apart, a shoulders width apart, and use the screen. And don't hunch over like this. This is absolutely not the right thing to do. And some monitor ergonomics. Let me just move this away so that, yeah. So the device should preferably be at an angle. Now this is the line of vision. The angle should be about 15 to 20 degrees up to the angle, so that if you can keep the center of the screen about 4 to 5 inches below eye level, that should be good enough. This way the eye is less exposed. If you're looking horizontally, the eye is more exposed. If you're looking down, the eye is less exposed and the eyes tend to retain moisture better. And the neck fatigue is definitely less. And there is always a concern. A lot of parents do ask me, which screen should I give? Now the children are doing a lot of homework or work on the screens. Which is better? Do I give them a mobile phone? Do I give them a tab or a computer? For this, I think the ideal is bigger the better. If you have a smart TV and connect it to the smart TV, that would be absolutely ideal. A bigger and more wider area of lighting is more comfortable for the eye. The smaller the screen, the light is much more focused and bright and maybe uncomfortable for the child. So for all of us, adults and kids alike, I think the smaller the screen, the more uncomfortable it is. And if you have a text and you want to kind of see a text while doing your work, try to keep your text close to the monitor, so that if you keep your text next to you, the eye has the extra added work of focusing from this direction, this distance to that distance, and that adds to the final strain. So try to keep your text or any other material at the same level as your screen. That will make a lot of difference for you. And of course, reduce excess illumination from the screen and from the outside. Try to reduce the screen brightness to the minimum that's comfortable and for you to see. Relax your shoulders. Many a time, if you consciously become aware of your shoulders, you might be really tensing it up and keeping it in a very odd angle. So in between, just try to relax your shoulder. And it's good to use computer peripherals than the trackpad, because it kind of makes it more easy and more comfortable for you. And this is, again, I have put this thing for a child. Now let's go through this. This has got a lot of information, so let's go one by one. So now if you see the line of sight, it's about 15 to 20 degrees from the eye. So this is the best way to see a digital device. And the viewing distance, of course, as I told you, is 25 inches or 60 centimeters away, one arm's width away. And the neck is straight. And this has try to keep a furniture with an adjustable backrest so that the child and the adult can have a straight back, and use some kind of a lumbar support for a straight back too. And elbow rest is a very good idea because you can rest your elbow and it doesn't strain you. And it's 90 degrees exactly placed on the table, so you are very comfortable. And most of the furniture are made for adults. So when the child is sitting on it and trying to do homework for a long time, try to have a comfortable cushion for the child. And if the child's legs do not reach the floor, it's always a good idea to have a footstool so that the child's feet are not dangling. That's very uncomfortable. So, and the knee is perpendicular and it isn't even with the hip. This is very important too. And the monitor tilt is also equally important. The monitor should not be straight. It has a tilt of about 10 to 20 degrees, which is very comfortable for the eye. And try to keep the mouse or the keyboard close, and so that the arm is stuck to the side of the body. Otherwise, if the arm is extended, then you kind of have a lot of strain, and the child also starts having a lot of strain towards the end of the day. So keep the mouse close and see that the arm is tucked close to the body. And use a comfortable font size, not too small, so that the child does not have to strain. And a black text on a white background is ideal for comfort. And of course, I cannot we cannot underestimate the importance of a good diet. You have to give a very well balanced and fresh and wholesome diet, both for adults and for children during this time. And keep yourself very well hydrated. Drink about 8 to 10 glasses of water. Include lot of good fruits and vegetables, carrots, spinach, all the good ones. And omega-3 fatty acids are known to be very beneficial. The natural sources of them: flax seeds, walnuts, most of the nuts. But what's available here: walnuts, almonds, kidney beans, soya beans, and avocados. Gives a lot of eye proteins and specific, zeaxanthin to the eye. And of course, physical activity is really, really important when you take a break. Of course, in these days when you cannot really go out, try to have some alternative. You can use your terrace to have a good game, or you can use an indoor trainer, or you can cycle probably where there is absolutely no crowd and you could actually go out. And yoga, dance, any form of physical activity is very good. And try to do it as a family so that even the child is encouraged to do it. If we kind of sit at the computer and or a TV and ask the child to take a break, that may not work. And have some quality family time. Don't bring your digital device again to the dining table. Have some digital free zones at home. That's very important, so that all of you rest your eyes and your mind from all these devices. So when you take a break, take a complete break and have a good quality family time. And of course, this is very important, but probably very difficult for all of us to do, but we must try to do this. Stop using digital devices or reduce the usage, ideally 2 hours before bed, but at least 1 hour before bed. Like I told you, the blue light reduces the melatonin secretion and can disturb sleep pattern. It may not be very obvious in short term, but in long term, you may have sleep issues. So try to reduce that, take a complete break, finish your work and keep your phones away. Keep your phones preferably out of the bedroom. And these days, it is the norm to even set an alarm on your digital phone. I think we should go back to the traditional alarm clock. That's what I have also done. So I think it's a good idea to do that. So try to reduce digital usage, keep it completely out of your bedroom. And more solutions, sometimes they say that reading from a sepia background rather than a white will kind of make it more comfortable for the eye. So you can try that. And there are certain phones which have some blue block filters on your phone in the phone settings. Maybe you can use that and try to change the color from a cold to a warmer color setting so that your eyes are more comfortable. And if you have any underlying corrective refractive errors which are not corrected, sometimes some of the children, it's more obvious probably now that they're using this digital media, some of the refractive errors. So you might have to kind of get the refractive errors looked into, especially astigmatism or cylindrical power, which can cause a lot of eye strain towards the end of the day. And if you are approaching 40 and you have this presbyopia or, difficulty in near vision, you might have to correct that. And because a device is usually at an intermediate distance, you might also have to have progressive glasses, that is for intermediate as well as near vision. And some of us have an underlying unrecognized convergence insufficiency. Basically, the eye moves because of eye muscles. Sometimes the muscles do not have a proper tone which is required to converge or bring the eyes together to focus. So this is called a convergence insufficiency. Sometimes a child can even have a latent squint which is not recognized. So all this can finally give rise to some amount of digital strain which has to be looked into. And I do get this very common question, doctor, I have a migraine. Does the computer use, does it increase this migraine? Yes, there are some trigger factors. I mean, you have to, most of the people who have a migraine have to recognize what your trigger factors are. It could be related to the eye, or sometimes they do have for, sound or a particular odor or something that can trigger the headache. So if it is the eye, it could be eye strain, excess illumination, poor posture, whatever it is, you have to kind of identify these trigger factors and try to rectify them and follow the same precautions like we have just discussed, all the precautions, nothing completely different for a migraine itself. And if it persists, definitely consult your doctor. There may be something else. Now, we have discussed about all these things. Now, let's see this prolonged close work. Now, the first set of symptoms, like I told you, was exposure and dryness and etc. Now, what happens when you're completely constantly at a particular, distance from the screen? Now, if you see this, now this is the anatomy of our eye. I just put a picture. This is what we call as cornea, the clear portion of the eye. And this is the lens. And lens is the clear crystalline structure which actually focuses, and it becomes thinner and plumper to kind of focus for distance and for near. And there are certain muscles called the ciliary muscles which actually help the lens focus. So basically they are muscles. So they are going to get strained when you're constantly looking at a particular distance. Now you see this is the first picture where you see that the eyes are focused for distance, and this is for near. Now you see the shape of the lens has changed. So this muscle is contracted here. So prolonged near work can definitely give rise. It's just like, you are exercising your arm continuously. You obviously are a bit sore. So the same way, you can get some eye ache or headache because of continuous use. And obviously you have to take short breaks. That's what helps you. When you look far away, the lens focusing changes and it relaxes the muscle, because every set of contraction has to relax. Like you do stretches for your body, it's stretch for the eye. So just follow the 20-20-20 rule that I told you. Look outside the window, take a stroll. And when you're looking and taking a break, remember not to again grab another screen for entertainment. That completely defeats the purpose. And we now know that myopia or short-sightedness is a global epidemic, especially in children. Now, we do see a lot of parents, they ask me, none of us have glasses, none of us wear glasses. My father's, is completely free from glasses at, 80 plus. Why does my child have to wear it at, say, even 3 years, 4 years? Yes, it is a fact that now that constant near work has made myopia or short-sightedness a global epidemic, and it is going to stay. Now, if you look at this graph, we are somewhere over here, 2020, and the prediction is that it's just going to go. So I think we have to take some kind of a remedial measures and try to avoid constant near work. And obviously after this pandemic situation is over, I think more outside, exposure for children, playing, and sunlight, not only by exercising and keeping fit, but also because of the light differences can help reduce the progression of myopia. So this is one thing to keep in mind. And this is given by the LV Prasad Eye Institute. This is what I've put here. These are recommendations for screen time. This is very essential now that all the kids are doing online. Actually, if you see here, see less than 3 years, it's actually considered that they have there's no requirement for a screen. I mean, I do see, because I have I have been working in pediatric retina for a long time, and I've done some work on retinopathy of prematurity, and I'm dealing with babies. I see even children, just to quieten or pacify the children, we do have parents even using nursery rhymes on the phone, or on the tab, or on the computer. I think we should go back to the traditional way of singing to them or reciting to them, and trying to avoid digital screen. Maybe we should just take a complete look and change this whole thing now. 4 to 6 years, you need just less than 1.5 hours of screen time. 7 to 12 years, it's about 3 to 4 hours with about 2 to 3 breaks. And 12 to 16 years, you can go up to 6 to 8 hours, but with 5 to 6 breaks, including a long lunch break. So some of the traditional practices that we were, following earlier, now I think our phone has become an all-encompassing instrument. I think we should try and go back to some of the traditional ways of doing things. Read to their children, read a book, and sing to them, recite to them, and maybe reduce digital time as much as possible. Of course, yoga, dance, any form of physical activity is more than welcome. Now, let me just give 10 tips, especially for children. You can set a timer or an alarm for every 20 minutes to remind them to take a break. Alternatively, you can use, you can alternate an ebook with a real book, because it has been found that visual fatigue is much more on an LCD screen than on a hard copy. So try to give them, an ebook in between, and take a break every 2 chapters, and follow, of course, this 20-minute break rule, and pre-mark your book, their children's book, so that they kind of know when to take a break. And try and adjust all this for the child before the child starts an online classes or a homework. Adjust the position, try to adjust the computer to avoid glare, and avoid a very bright, you can draw the curtains and avoid this glare coming in from the window. And a good posture, like I told you, it has really it goes a long way in improving your freshness at the end of the day. And the distance is also important. Remind them to blink, and of course create a distraction in between. Now, so far we have seen all the problems due to increased digital usage for both adults and for children alike in this area of confinement indoors. Now we have another set of problems at this time, which is unique, because some of them you may be having some underlying eye issues. You may be on a regular follow-up in some hospital or the other. And at this time, you have obviously a limited access to health facility, or you're very afraid to go out or to seek help or to even enter a hospital. So there are certain issues which come to your mind. And of course, ophthalmic examination always means that you're really close to the patient. There are certain unique set of challenges for an examination of an eye. We are, as an examiner, the examiner and the patient are fairly close to each other. So we have to use multiple barriers in the present time. Now you see there, N95 mask, a face shield, then we have another invisible a screen over here. And of course, the patient is also wearing a mask. So you have umpteen number of, you have to take a lot of care. And once one examination is over, before the next person comes in, we have to clean the entire system. So there are a unique set of challenges in this pandemic time, and the seating should be very far. You should have adequate spacing between them, and make sure that each and every one of them are wearing a mask. So these are some unique set of challenges that we have now. And of course, most of you must be familiar. We do a lot of investigations in ophthalmology. Most of you might have had an optical coherence tomography test, or you might have had a color fundus photograph taken on a fundus camera. All these also involve the patient seated over here, so that would involve the breath coming onto all these surfaces. So we have a unique way of protecting them by covering them, and then we have to clean this every time the next patient comes in. So why I'm highlighting all this is we need to prioritize who needs to go to the hospital at this time. So we want to prioritize. If you really need a care, definitely we need to look into it. But if there is something, if you just a routine checkup, I'm feeling completely well, I don't have any issue, then it's better to wait it out at this time. And even surgery faces its unique set of challenges. We have umpteen number of, lot of care to be taken in the surgery time at this period. So we need to prioritize as to what is emergency now and what can wait for some time. So, all of you must be having a lot of these questions coming to your mind. You're unable to go for regular checks. So what if I'm diabetic and, I have to go for my check and I'm not, what shall I do now? So keep your diabetes under control, of course, and try to self-monitor at home. Check your blood sugars at home, keep it under control. If you have any issues, definitely you need to contact, but if everything is okay and you're all right, and if you're over 65, it's better to avoid and wait it out at least for a couple of months till things settle. And some of you might have been told that you have a cataract, and you must be wondering, can I wait or should I go for a surgery? Well, if you have been told that you have a cataract, but you have fairly very good vision now, and you are able to do all your activities for reading or everything, and your vision is fairly okay, probably you can wait. So there's no emergency. But definitely if there is any drop in vision or if there's anything, you have to seek medical help. But you have to think in your own mind what can wait and what when you have to consult a doctor. And I do have people asking, I have AMD or age-related macular degeneration, and I am on regular follow-up. Should I go for a checkup? If you have sudden changes in vision, if you have sudden distortion of vision, difficulty in reading, which comes up suddenly, definitely you need to consult. But if you're fairly okay, there is no change in vision, and if it's a routine follow-up, maybe you can wait it out for some time. And even patients who have had glaucoma, you might be wondering, will I get my eye pressure checked? Should I go for an eye pressure check now? See, there are some issues at this particular time to check the intraocular pressure, because we are limiting intraocular pressure measurement to those who absolutely require it, because for any post-operative patients or people who have been diagnosed to have glaucoma, who are on some glaucoma medication, or who are on some steroid eye drops for various other conditions, or if they're we're seeing the patient for the first time, we have to do it. But we're trying to restrict it and not trying to do intraocular pressure for every person at this particular time, because among the two ways of measuring, we have the non-contact tonometry, which actually releases the aerosol. So we're trying to avoid this. And of course, contact tonometry actually goes on the eye for every patient. So we need to use a disposable application tip between the patient. So we need to take all these care. So we will definitely do these tests when it's absolutely required. And of course, you do need to, seek medical attention if you have any one of these problems that I have listed here. If you have any form of trauma to the eye and you're concerned, and if you have any redness of your eye, definitely consult your doctor. If you have a discharge, especially if you have any other associated symptoms of a cold or a sore throat, and if you have a pain in the eye or a sudden change in vision, sudden blurring of vision, and sudden onset floaters, flashes of light, or a dark curtain in the field of vision, you must definitely contact your ophthalmologist. And sudden distortion or blurring of reading vision, like I told you, these are instances when you definitely need to seek medical advice. So we have covered most of the things that are unique to this situation. Either it is increased screen time or some of these pre-existing problems. I hope I have answered most of your questions. So to conclude, now, awareness of better ways of using the digital devices will help to avoid eye problems. And of course, this is not just restricted to this pandemic time, but it is going to be the new norm now. The new normal is the increased use in digital devices. So I think it's better to adopt all these good practices. And knowledge of the conditions that need attention on priority will help prevent unnecessary anxiety and due to limitations of easy access to medical facilities. And try to have a teleconsultation with your doctor and try to see, and the doctor will decide whether definitely you need to come and need to, take that risk of going to any hospital at this time. And of course, if definitely it is required, with all precautions and proper care, definitely you can be examined. And we can use this period as kind of a learning time to learn preventive measures and good practices and adopt them for a better and a healthy future. And most of all, don't worry, be relaxed, be at ease, contact your ophthalmologist or a hospital on the phone and get directions if you're unable to visit the doctor. And thank you very much for listening.